Welcome to the LimitX Podcast, episode 2. Last episode, we briefly outlined what LimitX was, why I built LimitX, and what I was striving to achieve by building this brand. And episode 2, it only seems right to go into detail on what got me here and what gave me the confidence to start a triathlon brand, because it's something I didn't even think about doing even 2-3 years ago, but the way my triathlon journey is formed and the path I've kind of been led down, I've developed a real passion for this sport. But something I just want to outline at the start of this episode is the definition of fearless within LimitX, because it's at the heart of every episode and everything we do. So, fearless to me and to what LimitX stands for does not mean the absence of fear. It means chasing something bigger than yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone and going beyond what you ever thought was possible. And that's what LimitX means. And that's why we are building this brand and trying to create a community that upholds that definition of fearless. Now, why I'm building the brand around that definition is because personally, I have always tried to strive for bigger goals, and goals that I personally didn't think were possible. I've always had big ambitions, but I know some people, and particularly as I've been involved in triathlon, is some people don't have confidence in themselves to go and chase those big goals. So LimitX is here to really push people and to help people find what their limit really is, because most people have no idea at all. So I'm just going to repeat the definition once more. Fearless, to me and to LimitX, does not mean the absence of fear. It means chasing something bigger than yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone and going beyond what you ever thought was possible. So going forward, that is at the heart of everything this brand is going to do. So, as I said, episode 2 is going to cover my qualifications. It's pretty much going to be my CV. I'm going to take you through my sporting journey and what has got me to this point so far. So sport has always been a real passion of mine, and fitness is always something that I've taken very seriously. Ever since I was about 8 years old. I played rugby, but I really developed a passion for boxing. I boxed from very young until I was about 18, representing my country. And there was a real passion there to get better. Not quite the same passion that I currently have for triathlon, but there was a real passion there to just be the best I could possibly be. And I think I got to that kind of stage in my boxing journey, and I got to the stage where I didn't particularly want to carry on with the sport. So at the age of 18, just before going to university, I hate the word gave up. I lost passion for the sport, and not really having that passion to take it any further, I just didn't see the point in continuing that journey. And then I found touch rugby, another sport where I represent my country very proudly. And even though there was passion there for that sport, it wasn't the same passion I had for boxing, and definitely not the same passion I had for triathlon. And I think the really big passion, or the really strong passion for triathlon, comes from kind of my natural strengths as an athlete, and things that maybe come a bit more easily to me, just because I've worked on them since I was very young. So things like running. Now running I've done since I was about 6. And then really took it seriously when I obviously started boxing. So running, I've always had since I can remember, I've always had that really good base fitness, and I've never really lost too much fitness in terms of running. I can get quite easily I can not run for a couple of months, and then within, 12, 15 weeks, I could probably be back under the 20-minute 5K mark. And I know for some people that's a really big challenge, and that's a massive goal in itself, is getting under 20 minutes for the 5K. But I think that my passion for triathlon is so big because I know how far I can take this sport, having that ability to improve really fast because I've always had that base fitness there. So running is my main sport in triathlon. It's the sport that I'm best at, even though I've had a nightmare of an injury. I've turned to biking, and biking has been absolutely fantastic, and I've come on so much. But running is something that really allows me to excel in this sport. Things that do not come naturally to me, and definitely does not come natural to other athletes, is the swim. Now, even though I have swum since I was younger, I've never really swum seriously, never been part of a swimming club. I had swimming lessons since I was young, but they were the basic learn how to float, basic swimming. So I've never really been a competition swimmer. And that's the kind of same situation that most triathletes who start quite late on find themselves in. And it's something that we all really struggle with, because we try and improve, but swimming just does not seem to improve, ever. Even though over the last couple of weeks and since I've been self-coaching, I have seen some massive improvements being on the LimitX training program. And then my relationship with kind of competition also grows my passion for triathlon, because even though I am an ultra competitive person in anything I do, someone could invite me to, a knitting competition in 4 weeks, and you can almost guarantee that I'd spend most of my time outside of work learning how to knit, and if I lost that competition, I would be gutted. I'm just realising what a pathetic example that was, a knitting competition. Oh my god. But I've always been ultra competitive. But with triathlon, there seems to be a bit of a switch. Not to go and beat other people, but when I see goals or people's times on social media, even kind of professional triathletes' time, I've got the mindset of that's not too far off, and if I trained, I can get there. Especially within running, like I see people in like the 110, 115 halves, and I'm kind of like, with a bit of training and a bit of luck through injury, I could get there. And I have no doubt I could do it with a bike. Swimming might be a different story, and we'll see. But in terms of my relationship with competition through triathlon, it's very different than how it's looked before. And I'm not in competition with anyone else when I go into a race. I'm more in competition with myself. And I don't know, I can't pinpoint a certain time when that fire kind of lit within me, but it's there. And the solo sessions, every bike ride for the last couple of months I've done on my own, the indoor sessions on my own, and I always want to get better. Obviously, I'm on a LimitX plan. I design the LimitX plans, so I'm coaching myself. But to coach yourself, you need a extremely high amount of accountability. So, and that comes with being self-motivated. And I've never been the type of person before that kind of compares themselves against themselves, if that kind of makes sense. But with triathlon, it's kind of flipped, and the only person I'm in competition with is myself. So in terms of where I am physically right now, I've just come off a pretty nasty ankle/Achilles injury. So I am running around, so my tempo run on the weekend was 1k warm-up at 5:30 per kilometre pace, then dropping it anywhere between 4 minutes and 4 minutes 30, depending on the terrain. And that went well, and I held that pace for 9k and then another k cool down, and that was tempo pace, so around, or race pace, so around 75 to 80% of my maximum heart rate. Biking, I currently have a 300 watt FTP. That's come on leaps and bounds since I started triathlon, but that's also come on so much because running was off the cards for about 8 weeks. So that run was my first tempo run back. So not a horrendous time. And then swimming right now, I'm holding around anywhere between 135 per 100 meters to about 155, depending on what type of swim it is. But technique definitely still needs improving. And I think that's mainly what's holding me back. So we're working hard on that right now. So in terms of my training at the minute, the main goal is Ironman Wales. I done Ironman Wales last year. There's a bit of unfinished business there, as I got my nutrition slightly wrong, a bit of bad luck, but you can argue you also create your own luck. Didn't feel properly coming out of the swim, derailed the whole race. So I ended up coming in about in the 12-hour mark for that one, which was about an hour, and added about an hour onto the time that I was hoping to get. I was hoping to come in 11, if not just under 11, but nutrition determines how well you're going to race, and nutrition did not go well. Despite that, I still ran a 3 hour 40 minute marathon on that terrain. There was a crazy amount of elevation on the Ironman Wales course, if anyone has run it. So there was definitely positives to take from that race. And yeah, all things considered, with how the nutrition went, it still went quite well. So that's the main goal this year. I've also got a 70.3. That's Outlaw 70.3 in Nottingham in, I believe it's 6 weeks from now. The goal for that was to go under 5 hours. With the running injury, if that is possible, we'll see. Coming off the back of that tempo run last week or this week, it might still be possible, depending on how the fitness goes, how the improvements of fitness go in the next 6 weeks. But that would be a personal best as well. So those are the two main goals. There's other races kind of tucked in there, but those are the goals that I'm really kind of working towards this year. To train for them, I'm training anywhere between 15 to 22 hours a week at the minute. split between swimming, biking, running and gym work. So swimming, I tend to swim 3 to 4 times a week, anywhere between 2.5k and 3.5k. At the minute, when we go into full Ironman prep properly, that will increase to anywhere between 3 and 4k. Biking at the minute, the long rides are anywhere between 3 hours and 4.5 hours, with 1 recovery session in the week, 1 threshold or sweet spot session, but there's a heavy sweet spot session, so kind of 3 times 20 minutes at sweet spot pace, and then the longer ride. So 3 bikes. At the minute, just coming back from injury, I'm only on 2 runs as we're building up the distance, because I need to build up that distance ready for that half marathon for the 70.3. So I'm running next weekend. I have a 13k run and a 7k easy run. The 13k will be tempo again, the 7k will just be a easy run. And then the gym work, I'm currently changing how my gym work works. I spoke with a really knowledgeable S&C coach, and he recommended a different structure, go to 2 full body training days rather than just 1 full one and trying to cram everything in. So I'm in the process of changing my plan, and we'll see how that looks come next week. So that's my kind of current training split. And I am working a full-time job alongside that, which is, I think, 38 hours a week, and I'm trying to build this brand at the same time. So it kind of, having all that, it goes beyond just kind of physical. It goes to just a time issue, energy issue, the amount I'm eating, but still kind of, it comes to about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and I am exhausted. And the social life at the minute is really suffering. But when you set a big goal, you need to weigh up your positives and negatives, and something will always have to give if you were really determined to succeed in a big goal. So with Ironman training, for example, you spend so much time training, and I have a girlfriend that I need to spend time with. Need to sounds a bit mean. I love to spend time with, so I need to kind of factor in time for that. And so I need to factor in time for my partner, time for training, and then time to build my brand. And those are 3 kind of massive goals that I have set myself for this year. Spending time with my partner is obviously not a goal. So 2 massive goals are the Ironman and building the brand. And then everything else, social life, other sports, everything else outside of that kind of falls outside what I'm trying to achieve, so they don't get factored into the time. If I have a little bit of spare time, I will try and kind of get out and do something else, but at the minute I am so busy. But not just making myself like sound busy and the pointless busy. At the minute I am a productive busy, and there's something working within the brand that excites me, and that makes me constantly wanting to spend time on the brand, spend time training, and spending time to grow. But on the other side, my energy suffers and the social life suffers. So you need to, when setting a big goal, you need to be able to have a serious conversation with yourself and know what sacrifices you are going to have to make. So I guess to go on from that, the thing about training that no one, and I've kind of spoken to people since those big goals have been on the calendar, and I've set deadlines on things I want to achieve. But the thing that no one outside of kind of triathlon and Ironman training understands is when you start training and the amount of time you put in, how much it actually means to you. I'll have friends that offer to go down the pub or do something else, but unfortunately I do have a 4-hour bike on the weekends, and the toll that takes on the body is insane. And I would never sacrifice my friendship with other people, and I know my friends will still be there at the end of this kind of journey through triathlon, but it's a sacrifice, and that sacrifice comes by how much it actually means to achieve these goals. And everyone who does Ironman and even triathlon to an extent understands that, and understands the feeling of crossing that finish line. And I don't think there's very few things that can compare to that feeling, and the feeling of accomplishment, because you've set a massive goal and you've been fearless and you have achieved that goal. So moving on to my race last year with Ironman Wales. I have never really been totally honest with myself, with other people. So I'm going to kind of dive into detail about that. So I trained last year from February to September. So a long time for this race is all I kind of thought about every time, during training, before training, after training. So it comes back to that sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice other things because you're just thinking about this goal all the time. And as we went through training, things were going well, I was progressing, and then I never really had a real solid community around me where we would go for runs together, we would bike together, we would swim together. A lot of that training was done on your own. And that's partly why I've created LimitX, is so we can get a community in all areas and create this brand that people are proud to be a part of. So we can just say who's biking today, and boom, you've got people to train with and people to learn off. So as we got closer to that race, I think mentally I started to suffer, just because I was thinking about this race all the time. And 4 weeks or 5 weeks out, I had a pretty nasty running injury on my hamstring, which put me out of running until the Ironman, which looking back on it now was crazy, because I didn't run for 5-6 weeks and then went and ran a marathon off the back of a 180k bike. So that preparation was excellent until it wasn't. Everything was going well, everything was taking over, very little injuries, if any, and then boom, everything just got knocked off track. But the nerves that I experienced going into that race, because I hadn't run for 5 to 6 weeks. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to finish this race. So before the race, days before, I was like, I've done all this training, I've spent all this money, I've sacrificed all this time, and I could go and swim 3.8k and bike 180k, and then go to run a mile, and that be it. So the nerves before the race were insane, but there was kind of a switch that kind of flipped when I'd done that race. As soon as I got into that water, I knew that everything was going to be okay. I kind of had trust in my training, and I forgot about not being able to run for 5 to 6 weeks. But then I of the water. And running through the transition of Ironman Wales, if you go and search it up, it is insane. You can't see the floor of the crowds because there's just people everywhere. The noise, there's a tiny kind of pathway that you run through, and there is people everywhere. The town turns into a festival. So the adrenaline hit. I ran into T1, got my bike shoes on, got my helmet on, forgot to take my 2 gels, and they were in my bag, but in the moment I kind of forgot why I put them in there and didn't take them, and that was the start of a downward spiral for that race. So again, it was on me. So if you pack a gel the day before in a bag, take the gel. Don't be like me. And then the first aid station on Ironman Wales is not until 40k. So a little over an hour. A little over an hour. So by that time I had been swimming for 1 hour 15, biking for another hour, or an hour 10, an hour 20. So I am 2 hours 20 into a triathlon with no nutrition, just water. And that was great. I had electrolyte bottles, but for some reason just totally forgot to take them. I think I was panicking about the gels. And then as we were getting kind of closer to that aid station, I started to take that bottle, and I was just playing catch up all the time. Catch up with nutrition, until the point where things started to go south again and I started to feel sick. I had to get off the bike and be sick. I was trying gels from the aid stations that I'd never tried before. And yeah, things just were not good on that bike. I had to get off several times. So in hindsight, I think I'd done that bike in about 7 hours 10. Still a pretty good time for what I went through. But I think that was a moment that defined my race. And then there's a video of me coming into T2 off the bike, and my face was just, not good. I did not think I was going to be able to run that marathon. Not because of the injury that I sustained a couple of weeks before, but because of the absolute nightmare I went through on the bike. I just didn't have any energy. So I went into T2, kind of sat on the bench. I was always going to go and try it and run. But I sat on the bench and I was thinking, I got to run a marathon. I'd never run a marathon before. That was my first one. So I took some painkillers, trying to get ahead of the hamstring injury, and I went out of transition, and I went up the first hill on Ironman Wales, and I had no energy at all. I was barely moving, and somehow, starting the second lap, I hit a bit of a second wind. It took 9 hours to come. That second wind took 9 hours, but I hit it. I caught up on nutrition. The things I ate to catch up on nutrition: jelly babies, other sweets, and crisps to stop the cramp. And they come in they saved me. They saved my race. So every aid station I took 1 cup of jelly babies, another thing that had carbs in, and crisps. And I didn't know how much carbs were in them. I didn't have a clue. And I took an electrolyte drink. And I didn't know how much carbs, electrolytes, salt, sodium were in them, but it was working. So I just kept going. And from that second lap, I got into a rhythm to be proud of based on what I went through before. So I was hitting about 440 Ks, I want to say. Like, first lap was about 630s, if that. And I started to motor, and I was starting to enjoy things again. My family was there, my girlfriend was there, and it was one of the best runs of my life because of everything I had come through up until that point was made those last 3 hours or 2.5 hours worth it to a T. So I was flying around the course, flying past people, and that finish line moment, ringing the bell. It was my first full Ironman. Ringing the bell was crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. And I can't wait to experience it again. But something I've learned from that race is I could have pushed a lot further in training, because it was my first full and I'm doing another full, and I will continue to do so, but I'm very good at predicting people's training and knowing how far people can push, knowing myself how far I can push, and I could have pushed further there. My heart rate was low, and so in terms of what I kind of learned about myself is don't be scared to go. I was more scared of crashing out in that race than I was about, I don't quite know how to put it into words, but I was more worried about finishing at all than finishing in a good time. And if I was to do it again, I would just go hell for leather. And if I break, I break. But at least I know I give it my absolute all. And I finished that race and I was like, oh, if I got that nutrition right, or if I done this, I could have smashed that course. So I was fearless in pursuit of the goal, and I didn't underestimate how big that goal was. But I made a mistake in my nutrition, and I've learned from that. So this year is going to be an absolute massive year. So, moving on. What I'm kind of changing this year is I'm doing more sweet spot workouts. I am doing more longer zone 2 workouts and trying to integrate them in my week before my longer sessions on the weekend. But I am only able to do that because I've built up that base over 3-4 years of constant training, constant triathlon training. I think patience is something I've definitely taken on board and learned from. And I have spoken to multiple elite level athletes, S&C coaches about how you can integrate certain things in your training in order to improve your overall race times. And I am so excited for this year. So what does this mean for the journey of LimitX? Well, LimitX is a brand, and we sell and we help people get to that finish line. I have been through so many mistakes, so many that I probably can't cover every single one, and that's probably an episode in itself. But I want to help people get to that finish line. I want to build a community that are proud to be part of LimitX. And we're doing that through providing tailored monthly training programs, of which we have 8 people on currently, training for T100s, 70.3s and Ironmans. And they're all doing well. Just to kind of shout out them, coming to the end of this episode, we have had 2 athletes in the last week reach 5k PBs, despite being on longer training programs for 70.3s and Ironman. We have had a athlete improve his FTP by 40 watts since November last year, which is insane. And we have got multiple first-time athletes that we have already installed confidence into to complete the Ironman. And our athletes should be immensely proud of themselves. So the next kind of chapter of LimitX, we are going to put on an event, and I am very proud to announce that the first event of LimitX will be an event in Tenby, Wales, and we're going to do a recce. I'm not actually sure of the full name, but we're going to do a recce of the course, a branded LimitX event, and anyone is welcome. I've mentioned that we want to build a community, and the way I see, and the only way I see us building a community and the brand reaching the heights that I want the brand to reach, is to bring all triathletes together and to learn from experiences. So we are offering this event free of charge. We're hopefully going to have volunteers handing out nutrition as we do one lap of the bike course, and the run course. Now the run course is a bit easier to facilitate because it's just 10k laps, but the bike course is still a work in progress. The dates of this event will be the beginning of May, on going from the Friday the 2nd of May to Monday the 4th of May, which is a bank holiday in the UK. So if you want to sign up for that event and let us know you're coming, make sure that you fill out the form in the bio, and we will see you at that event, and we will send you more details over email. So, thank you for listening to episode 2 of the LimitX Podcast. Episode 3, we will cover athlete stories. And we haven't quite worked out what episode 3 will be yet, but we are going to dive deeper into our athletes and what they are currently accomplishing. So thank you for listening. We will see you at the next one, and remember, the future favours the bold.